So tell me about yourself and your stroke story.
Yes. So I'm Amy, and I had my stroke about 4 years ago. I consider myself a very positive person, a hard worker, very self-motivated, and luckily that carried forward from my old self to through to stroke. I had hemorrhagic stroke. I was working out at the gym one evening, and I think it was just a spike in the blood pressure that caused the blood vessels to burst. And I knew the stroke symptoms. My brother is a stroke survivor, and I could tell the hand wasn't doing right. I felt like I was drooling. I went to take a break, get some water, and it just went all over me. I couldn't swallow. So they knew me well enough. They, of course, called 911. A nurse was there, and they found my cell phone, got a hold of my brother, who then drove 2 hours to meet me at the ER, and called friends, and just kind of went from there. Showed up here at Methodist, and what I remember was just like, I felt I could talk clearly, but I didn't know why people weren't understanding me. Because in my mind it sounded clear, but I think that's the trick the brain plays on you, where you think you sound okay, but my friends weren't understanding what I was saying. It was just a lot of gobbledygook. So in the ER, the main thing was to lower my blood pressure. They didn't feel like they needed to do surgery, that over time the bleeding should stop, and with considerable amount of time, the area where the brain is dead, of course, neuroplasticity, the rerouting of, what moves your arm, what moves your leg, a different part of the brain would take that over. So, yeah, I never lost consciousness. A lot of people do. A lot of people asked me if I did, and I was alert. I remember worrying about if they were going to have to cut my clothes off like they do on TV. And something about that I didn't want to experience. Mm-hmm. So I still have the t-shirt that I wore the day I had my stroke. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so through therapy, a lot of therapy, a lot of support from family and friends, that I got back to what I say, I got back to Amy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, good story.
Yeah.
And so what led you to join Inspire?
I don't remember receiving a booklet when I was here, but my mom had remembered receiving this Inspire stroke support group. It was about 6 months later, and my doctor was telling me too, of like, you should be around other people who know what you're going through. My friends were super supportive, but they also didn't quite understand the little intricacies of, it takes me longer to eat, it takes me longer to talk, everything took longer to do. Then so I was like, okay, I'll look into Inspire. So yeah, this is what I was wearing the day I had my stroke. And I've used this saying several times when I facilitate the online group, of stay positive, work hard, make it happen. So I'm like, so very fortunate they didn't have to cut this off me. I don't remember how they got it off, but somehow, yeah. So I'm going to do something with it, of frame it or something, but we'll see. So then my friend gave me another one when I was going through therapy. It's the stroke survivor, but then at the very bottom,
Yeah, I'll zoom
it's the 1,000% something total freaking badass.
in.
That's one of the things I would say when I was recovering is, I want to get back to Amy and like, I am a badass or badass Amy or something like that, where it was just like, that always stuck in my head. But yeah, I liked this one as well.
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you were talking about what led you to join. You got the pamphlet, and then you were talking about
Yes.
being in the ER, and anything else you want to add?
So I was done with therapy. I was still doing stuff at home, but I needed more support, whatever. So I looked into Inspire. My mom reminded me of this folder, and I was like, okay. Karen was the leader at that time. I sent her an email, but it was also when COVID started and the pandemic, and she was like, I think we'll be shutting down soon, but I'll let you know when we start up again. At that time, too, we were like, oh, it'll be by Easter or June or whenever. We didn't think it was going to be a year plus.
Yeah.
So, I ended up not joining Inspire until I think it was 2022 when it got up and running to do Zoom calls. And so then I participated online and met several of the same people who are still online with us today. Yeah.
And you facilitate?
Yes, and now I facilitate the every Wednesday group and then help with some of the in-person stuff too. And I become a peer mentor. And that's just incredible experience. That has allowed me to see and really put into play like how far I've come to visit people who survived the stroke and are in the hospital and let them see that they can make it just as far. They work hard and stay positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So do you remember what your first day was like?
Well, I do remember getting on Zoom. I was familiar with that because my family had weekly Zoom calls through the pandemic. I do remember we had a fun little icebreaker. I remember sharing my story to other people who were like, wait, did she have a stroke or didn't she have a stroke? And, when was it and how bad, whatever. And then I remember Karen basically saying, you made it through the first time. Don't make any decisions of if you're going to come back or not come back yet. Try it 3 times, and then you'll see if this is the right fit for you or not. And I don't think I had to wait 3 times. I think it was a pretty good fit from the beginning. I like talking. I'm outgoing. I'm very extroverted. But at the same time, I like to pull things out of people too and hear their stories. So it is a good place for me.
You're natural.
It's natural. And Karen had said that. And then when you got on board too, you were just like, okay, Amy, can you do this? And what about this? Oh yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, you don't ask me twice.
Yeah. That's perfect. Good. And can you describe what a typical support or activity group is like?
Yeah. So recently the groups have been getting quite large. So when I facilitate, I try to bring up a topic if no one else has questions to talk about. But then of that topic, I hope to get everybody to share, or at least say, I don't associate with this topic, or I can't think of anything right now. That's fine too. Or I don't have anything to share. Most of the time, though, like, people do want to talk, especially if you call on them and say it like, Joe, would you have anything to share? What do you think about this? Or how do you reflect on that? How is your experience with fatigue? But a lot of times it is people want to share and they feel at home. So I just like that part of the support group where everybody can speak up and share if they want to. No pressure if they don't. The other thing that I try to be cognizant of, and I've noticed everyone is too, we all have difficulties speaking. Sometimes it takes a bit longer for words to get formed or to choose the right word to say, and we don't interrupt each other. We can sit on a Zoom call or the Teams call for, it might feel like a minute, but they'll eventually come up with that word to say, or a similar word where we understand what they're getting at. And that is so important because they have to do it. Their brain has to work a bit harder in that moment. It could be fatigue, it could be just a rough day. But it's best for them to come up with that word or that term instead of somebody else filling in the gap. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And, I don't participate in the caregiver groups, but I hope in the caregiver groups that they learn to they learn to let their survivor struggle. You know? Sorry, I got hair in my mouth now.
Yeah. It's all good.
It was back to like my story. When I did get discharged, I live alone at my home, and my mom came and she lived with me. Well, at the time she was 82. She could drive, and she prepared my meals for me and kind of was like, you seem to be getting tired, you should probably go to bed now. Drove me to therapies. But then it was like, I had to start doing stuff on my own. Then my sister-in-law came to stay with me, and she was like, things are changing, I'm not your mom.
Yeah.
So she would stand there and be like, okay, what are you having for breakfast today? And I'm like looking at her like, aren't you going to get me my bowl of cereal? And she's like, I will watch you to make sure that you don't, trip or fall or hurt yourself. But you can do this. You have to learn to do this. And it was different, but that's exactly what I needed. Of like somebody to just make sure that I was safe and pushing me to like do it myself and not jumping into complete like my sentence or to prepare my meal for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
True words. What's your favorite thing you've done with Inspire?
That's easy. I love the unmasking event. Yes. The so I think it's the Brain Alliance, whatever, came in, and I had heard of this before. I don't know where or how, but to be able to take your story and put it on a mask of showing like all the different emotions you feel, showing of, this was the person before, into evolving and grief and loss and going through the anger to evolve with acceptance. That's how I did my mask. And I'm still Amy, And I'm the Amy who doesn't have a career anymore. I've learned to accept that. That was one of the hardest things, to go from a career businesswoman to like, I'm 44 years old and I'm not going to work again? What am I going to do? But you find your purpose. You find your value. It takes long for everyone, and it's different timing for everyone. And who would have thought that it's career businesswoman to volunteering? But it's something that at the base foundation, it's about helping others, and that's who I am, helping others. And I still fulfill that purpose, and I still get tremendous value out of that.
Okay, last question is, what's something you'd want others to know about Inspire or about the people in Inspire, or both?
That when they join, it's okay to be apprehensive. It's okay to feel like, I don't belong with this group. I don't know these people. They're strangers to me. How are they going to understand what I'm going through? All these questions. It's okay. It's okay to like think that way. It's okay to feel that way. Everything is normal. Then you get into group and it's like, oh, this is just like hanging out with my best friends. Of what you share about your story, they experience the same things. Similar things as far as what we each had to do in physical therapy, what we each did in occupational therapy, all the little speech therapy games and cognitive thinking that we all went through, and now we can look back and be like, oh yeah, I failed at that miserably, but after 5 times, I could do it again. Or I remember I always said I cheated at a lot of the games. In my mind, it was like, if I get it done fast, then I win. But I didn't follow the directions. I was supposed to move one peg at a time, but I took my hand and just grabbed them all. I did it. I'm done. But they're like, oh no, Amy. Yeah. So, of people coming into Inspire, they will see is like, hopefully they feel very welcome, and that they feel very much that they're just sitting and talking with friends. Yeah.
Any final thoughts or things you want to share?
Yeah, so the only thing I'd share is definitely like what I've learned, like different tips and tricks for stroke survivors. That the support is so important. I think that's one of the most important things when you're surviving a stroke. If it's support from family, friends, strangers praying for you, sending good thoughts your way, in order to feel that support, then you have enough time and energy to focus on what you need to do to get better. And you need that support of what's the self-care one, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, psychological support, all of those things where if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to recover as far as I did. So thus the Inspire support group is tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.